Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. That was really deep.
Hello.
Can you go?
Welcome to CLCI Live. That's what this is. That's what the shenanigans we have going on here right now is what we call CLCI Live. We do this every week at 4 p.m. and we have various topics. But before we get started, I want to invite, encourage, ask, beg, plead, request that those of you guys watching, please participate in this conversation. Leave comments. Tell us what your thoughts are. We really want to hear from you as we do this. That's why we do this live, so that we can hear from you. So please, please, please join in the convo. So that's all from me. Who wants to introduce our topic?
We're talking about stress. We're talking about, you can see Fry in the background. He's stressed and going crazy. Was it just stress, or stress like in regards to how do clients deal with stress? How do coaches deal with stress?
I think stress is just this inevitable part of life that we all deal with. And I think that we're going to talk a little bit about mindset and stress as well.
Mindset and stress. Okay. How it coaching?
You know, we'll talk about it generally, and then we'll bring it back to the coaching realm at some point. Like
okay.
We do, I think.
This will be somewhat. Eventually, we'll make it relevant to our coaches who watch.
I mean, I think it's all relevant because life is relevant to coaches, and we all live it. So, so
Hello,
stress.
Meg.
I have a question. I'm going to question. How do you guys? First, wait. Well, I'm going to ask the same one as the woman asked. How much have you guys experienced stress over the last month? A little bit.
Experienced it?
Like how much? Yeah. How much stress have you had over the course of the last month? Let's say.
How much? How do I even quantify that? I've experienced 20 stress.
But yeah, I don't know how to answer. I mean, yes, have I experienced stress?
Okay. Well, have you felt stressed at all?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anybody here that's now not felt stress one bit this past month? Good. Okay, good. Like, give me your
Jen? Oh, la-di-da, Jen.
I don't think that's true because there's been a few times that we've had some. I think we just had a student that caused Jen some stress.
Oh, yeah. But those are moments. It's not a long term, you know. As long as it's a moment, I can handle it. Yeah, that's normal. I mean, as far as like the whole month, I've been just cruising.
Okay.
So I guess define what you mean. Which kind of stress? Is it stress we can manage or stress we can't manage that you're asking about?
Well, why don't I'm going to ask you guys, what is stress for you?
Well, I tend to differentiate stress between acute and chronic stress, where it's like acute stress is like there's things that are stressful, like there's an event, like if a loved one dies or you lose your job. That's probably an acute moment of stress, whereas chronic stress is just like it's everything. It's like sort of saturated your lifestyle to be like stressful.
It's acute. It's adorable. Like
No, you're stressing me out right now with your inane comments. That's usually how I tend to differentiate stress. Is you got either one-off events that maybe you can or can't prevent, but they're like clearly identifiable events, or just lifestyle, like general lifestyle is stressing people out. That's usually how I differentiate the two.
So there's like chronic, everyday little stresses, and then you can have like a peak stress for you. Lisa, what is stress for you?
Well, I mean, goal tasks tend to be stressful, but not in a bad way. Conflict, typically for me, is not. That is a stressor for me. That's not healthy. But in general, the little day-to-day tasks can be stressful. Exams can be stressful, but like I have a little test kind of thing that I put off, just because I don't want to stress. So I set myself up to be in that space of where, if you will, stress works for me, not against. Otherwise, I won't be able to think appropriately with the stress that prevents me from continuing, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying, well, I heard you say that you have a delineation between healthy and unhealthy stress. For you, there's healthy stress and unhealthy stress, and so when you're approaching healthy stress, you'll sort of create time for healthy stresses.
Yeah.
And then for unhealthy stresses, that's a whole other bag that we should probably talk about in a little bit, but we'll leave it where it is for now. But relationship and turmoil within relationships can cause unhealthy stress for you. Is that what I heard? Yeah. Before we jump into that, I want to say hi to Meg Hoppert. And she said, stress to me is a compounding feeling of overwhelm that grows with each task I need to complete. The more thinly stretched I feel, the more stress intensifies for me. Yep. I think that is definitely one element of stress for sure. When we're talking about stress that is brought on maybe when I talk about what stress might be to me, it's a whole other thing. But when stress is brought on by tasks and time management, that's a whole other thing, which can cause a tremendous amount of stress.
We have a big task that we're all working on, but it doesn't seem, to me, it seems like it's being managed.
Well, I think it's been broken up say hi to Danger, everybody, into a little bits. And that's the nice thing is we've tasked it out and we're breaking it down into bite-sized pieces where we can solve it. And we're also we haven't put it off to the last possible minute, which helps too.
Now I think about it, like, it's like I'm constantly like, oh God, when is this thing due? And it's like, oh, it's not like due for a while. So we're probably ahead of the curve. That's what makes me feel better about this big project. But at the same time, I'm like, we got to get this done now.
Jerome, what is stress to you?
I think a huge component of stress for me is community. The people that I keep around me. I've been in environments where people are, the smallest things will set them off, and that inherently is going to set me off at the same time. I'll start stressing just because, I guess you can call myself someone who kind of is, why is that slipping my mind?
An empath.
Yes, an empath. There you go. Being empathetic, it's very easy for me to kind of attach to someone else's feelings and then kind of take them as my own. So for me, a big component of stress is my environment and who I keep myself around. Because I feel like if you disassociate from that environment and you give yourself a second to really think about the scenario, what's happening, there's a very strong chance that you can go ahead and calm yourself to the point where you're not necessarily in stress mode, I guess, is what I'll go ahead and qualify it as.
Jen, what is stress to you? And I didn't reflect back what you said, Jerome, and I should have done that, and I'm rude. So, Jerome, you essentially said that stress to you is when you're in, it's essentially could be interactions with people, and it can be the emotions of others, and being around other people who are causing stress can very much make you take on that emotion and stress for yourself.
Yeah, that'll be usually when I'm most stressed, is around other stressed people. Typically, I think by myself, I can manage my stress pretty well. But especially if it's, people that you care about and you see that they're stressing out, you want to sometimes help in a manner that you just cannot, unfortunately, which compounds that stress. And it snowballs. It's being around other people who are stressing stresses me out.
Jen. Oh no. Are you
so stress to me is am I?
I think you're good.
Am I
You're good.
She's just major chilled.
I'm always kind of paranoid that it's I'm always paranoid when I'm making like a very weird
face.
Yeah. So
I guess
so stress to me is when I feel wait, am I froze again?
You're good.
You're good.
Am I
Keep
delayed?
talking. Just keep
I
talking.
feel like okay. So stress to me is I feel it take over my body, and I start to feel like I can't regulate my calm. I can't get back to neutral. Oh, we have another cat on the show tonight.
Yeah, she's disappeared into the
The most stressed time that everyone is freezing. I hope this is okay.
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait. Okay.
Okay.
The most stressed time was right before my wedding, having to make all these decisions. For some reason, like rapid decision making stressed me out in a way that I will never forget. Like I physically as a because I was just like at one point I was like I don't even care, somebody make like I can't keep doing it. So this taking out time to process, that stresses me out. It's connection issues.
Boo. So everybody is shared, but you notice everybody had a little bit of different interpretation of what stress. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about what causes stress and a little bit about what stress is. There was a little bit of both in there. Jen touched on it being a physical reaction that we get, like you feel it. I definitely can feel my stress at times. For my physical symptoms is sometimes my neck will feel like it's like strained or pulling. My heart will race sometimes. My brain will race at times, depending on, and I can actually go into panic states almost. But then at the other times, I can sort of find a very good, comfortable pocket in the middle of chaos as well. I do both things, but I would say I'm similar to Jerome in the sense that like it's not so much for me that I take on the emotions of others, but I very much value my relationships with other people. So what can cause me a tremendous amount of stress is if I am worried that those relationships, those kind of things, if they're in a place where I'm gonna break, or there's gonna be turmoil, there's gonna be something, because people in my life are very important to me, and I would rather just be in like a cool, calm, and collected place for them. Like I don't take on their stress, but I just want to make sure that I don't know, everybody's in their place doing their thing and everything's okay. Like you know what I mean? We don't have to talk that often, and we don't or whatever, but I just want to make sure all is well in those spaces, and that they're there and I can tap into them when so that's would be like a big stress causer for me, is the loss of people in my life, and their safety and health. So all in all, though, we've talked about different kinds of stress. Lisa talked about some good. She sets aside time for good stress. So one of the things we watched that I thought was so cool was this concept that stress kind of has a bad name. Like, what have you guys? I mean, for me, I've always been told stress is just going to make me fatter. It's going to make me age quicker, and it's gonna essentially make me more miserable, right? Like this is not a good thing. I need to just find a way to feel like it's okay. But then when you redefine it and sort of think of it, well, you get stressed before you like. There's anxiousness is stress, and I've learned to utilize that in other ways and not be anxious about my anxiety. And I think that was a really cool thing that they tapped into is not to be anxious about your stress. What have you guys been told about stress your whole lives, essentially? I mean, that it's good or bad or otherwise?
Generally bad. I've been being told by healthcare professionals that if I don't reduce my stress, my heart will explode, or my eyeballs will pop out of my head because my blood pressures get so high when I'm stressed out.
Has a doctor actually told you your eyeballs are going to pop out of your head?
Like, I'm paraphrasing the medical jargon, but that's pretty much what he said was your eyeballs will fall out of your head. and your heart will explode.
Is your doctor in Toontown? Is that what's going on?
I might have recently watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so that's how I'm paraphrasing things, but that's essentially what it is. But generally bad. Stress is bad.
Well, so how does stress come into play for our clients?
Oh, in a variety of ways. Just like we each had a different little nuanced perspective in this little chat we've got going on, they are in the same place in that each one's got a little bit different. Some of them know how to utilize stress to their advantage versus their disadvantage, which is what Anthony was kind of, to me, if it affects your health, then that to me is a disadvantage.
I'm not even sure that if a client didn't feel stressed, then they would pursue coaching. Like, I can't imagine a scenario where if stress is not involved in, a person's life, then they're like, oh, coaching, I should still do coaching if there's no stress. Like, I can't think of an example, at least in my experience with coaching, which is limited. It's very limited. But most of my clients, there's stress involved, whether it's the good kind of stress where they're motivated to get their goals going, but there's a crunch involved and they're stressed for some, whatever factors, or whatever it is they're trying to coach, they're trying to solve the stress that is coming from different things.
Maybe it's that maybe I am like, I'm a trust fund kid and I've got my whole day, which is just, I'm whatever. And I gotta do something with my life. I'm not stressed about it, but
No,
I gotta do something.
You're talking about, I'm doing hasty generalization here, the surfer dude who hangs out at the beach all day and they have that.
All right.
Or dudette. Yeah,
I've yet to encounter that person. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it seems
Not
like
saying that it can't exist, but I've yet to see that in real life.
So stress is inescapable, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? That stress is that is a part of life. That is a part of life.
But yes, but sometimes, you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
I have to be on a delay. I'll talk and then be like 5 seconds later.
Well, it is a
Sometimes
delay.
I notice that clients actually are creators of their own stress. And sometimes the coaching process will reveal that to them and they will leave having relieved themselves of stress that they created. And that's a beautiful moment.
Lord knows I am the creator of my own stress. Always have been. We create our own stress. Any stress that we've experienced over the deadline for the accreditation updates that we're doing, we created that deadline for us. The real one's way off in the future, truthfully, but we're like, we're going to get it done in 2 weeks. And then we stress it. And it's totally self-induced. And then the other flip side of the coin is my mantra that I started saying to myself, because I used to stress about everything. I was a people pleaser and I was raised in an environment that was just, as a kid, it was a very high stress environment where I was scared that if I didn't get straight A's, if things didn't go right, if things like the whole world was going to come crashing down, like everything was going to fall out from under me. And I've had moments in my life where I felt like, holy crap, everything's going to fall out from under me, and it could at any moment. And that's like the big difference between like stress broke and not stress broke is if I feel like, okay, wait, no, things are okay. I don't need to stress. I know when I've been in situations where I should have been freaking stressed. This is not one of those situations. And because I used to get stressed about hosting trivia, and that's trivia. It's trivia. I can't get stressed about something called trivia. It's not possible. And so I developed a mantra, which is typically, nothing's on fire. Nobody's lives are at stake. I'm okay. Stress will just make me fatter and older. Like, let go. Everything is okay.
I think that brings up an interesting point. Something I want to ask you guys: how do you guys manage stress? Since we do mention that it is inevitable, I would have to assume we've all dealt with it. Meaning we've all also gone away from dealing with it. How do you guys typically handle that?
I throw things.
I don't throw things, but I will need to be alone. I'll have to manage and take care of whatever the business part of the needs to be done. And then, that introvert part of me needs to go back and be quiet, sit, drink my coffee, have my water, whatever it is that's just going to be calm and quiet and just refuel. Meditation, definitely. All of that plays a part in getting back to neutral or center or not in that aroused state that we would term someone who is in stress. It can be aroused. Mm-hmm.
What's funny is I can get retreat when I'm stressed. Like I can be somebody, but then I also am somebody who very much wants to call on other people when I'm stressed. Like I want to speak to people. I want to talk it through. I want to create a plan. I want to sort of address whatever it is that's stressing me out and then figure out how to manage it and then have a plan to move forward. Like I'm such but that's a control freak thing too. Like I've had to learn to let go of my need to manage, fix, communicate the thing, like in certain situations I've had to learn that that's not always what's going to happen for me. Like so I've had to come up with other tools and ways to deal with that, like meditation and then talking to other people that aren't like you know what I mean, that are outside of the situation, or just letting go sometimes, just letting go of it and just going, this is not my thing to stress about. Like this is not, I don't need to be stressing about this right now, and just releasing, I guess.
I'm with you. In the sense of I'd like to be doing something. If, for example, I'm thinking of an incident. I was around someone who was really stressed out and they didn't know what to do and make choices. And they go, "You got to make these choices." I'm like, okay, I don't know, the choices that I'm going to make might be wrong. They didn't care. I'm like, okay, no problem. And then I could, like Jen was talking about her wedding, making these quick choices. As long as I knew that I could make these choices and it wasn't going to come bite me later, I could do it, no problem. And they all pretty much panned out to be fine. For the most part, those quick decisions sometimes can be really uncomfortable in other incidents. If it's my stuff, which is what Jen was talking about, it was her stuff, her wedding stuff, that she had to make these quick choices for herself. But for others, that power struggle wasn't there.
As you're sharing, something's coming forward to me, and it's the concept of like this decision-making concept keeps coming up, like having to make choices, decisions, something that we do with our clients a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But it's interesting. I think that there's an element that comes sort of prior to all of that, and the element that comes sort of prior to all that is this thought of like fear and confidence are coming up for me in this. Like I'm scared to make this decision. I'm not confident to make this decision. I'm not confident to do the X, Y, or Z. And that's causing me stress because I don't know which way to manage, which is ding, check-in coach moment, right? Like, it's essentially what we do. So I think, Anthony, you kind of got it right on the nose there when you said clients don't come into us without stress, right? They absolutely do, because that's what we do as coaches, I think, is we help them become confident in what their next steps are, what they need to do, and sort of go, oh, wow, I'm not stressed about this anymore. I know what to do. I know how to move forward.
I think also, as opposed to being confident in what your next step is, being confident in the outcome as well. Being a client, having your coach lay out your options and the end results, which sometimes you can get a little heady about. You don't even really understand what the end results potentially could be. But laying those potential results out with your client having them understand, well, all of these results say I'm not going to die at the end of the day. So being confident and, well, let's hope, not to say that's impossible, but I just saying with a coach, they can really help you kind of, again, be confident and comfortable with some of those end results, which again, really benefits you when it comes to managing stress in a client's or in a session.
To that point though, like sometimes what we're doing with our clients is working through not only the successes, but working through the possible failures, like working through that. Well, I'm going to be okay if it fails. Wait, what's worse? If it fails and I don't try, or if I don't try, or sorry, if it fails and I try, or if I don't try at all, like what's worse? And then you start to say, so because it's more than just the option of doing it, failing, but then there's this third option of not doing it at all and staying frozen in fear and this, letting the stress win essentially, and not making the changes and stuff. So you've got those options and sort of them being able to explore the possible results. And sometimes that's enough for them to go, okay, yeah, I want to move. I got to do something, right? The concept that I thought was really neat in this was that this idea of, and I just want to share it, and I don't know how it plays into coaching, so I'm just going to share this, something that was, and then you guys give your thoughts. In that one documentary, how they did express that study that they did a study over 8 years of people who experienced stress, high levels of stress, people who experienced low levels of stress. But then there was this defining characteristic where the people who were experiencing high levels of stress were divided into two groups. And the groups were ones that thought stress was really bad for you, and ones that accepted the stress as part of life and didn't think of it as this really detrimental part of their lives. And what they found was 46% of people who believed stress was bad for them were 46 times more likely to experience death, essentially, to have detrimental health effects that would result in essentially eventual death, and that the ones who had the same levels of stress but believed it was not detrimental to you, in fact, were the healthiest of all of them and experienced the least possibility of having negative health effects as a result of stress, because they literally just believed that stress wasn't a big deal and it wasn't going to affect their bodies. It wasn't going to affect their physical health. It wasn't going to affect all of these things that we're told by doctors that will happen because of stress. They just didn't believe that. They accepted it as a part of life. And the belief that stress wasn't going to be harmful was enough for it not to be harmful, which is, mind blowing to me. So I think it's so very cool. Yeah. And that sort of brings in this concept of mindset and stress. And so what does that mean to you guys?
I buy into it. I totally buy into what, I think her name was Kelly. Wasn't it Kelly? I can't say her last name. But
yeah.
McGonigal, something like that. Anyway, I totally buy into that. I haven't researched her, but to me, it makes a whole lot of sense when I look at other people who let that stress negatively impact them. Often, their health isn't what it should be. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I think I'm pretty healthy. I don't think I let stress affect me too long. Of course, I have my moments. I stomp around, but then they're done. They're gone. They're in another phase of things, and I move on. So the ability to use it, like all of us here, I think, because we are all coaches, we have learned. I even think, even just from being here, learned how to adapt and really use it to our advantage, especially with coaching one another like we do. We help, I think, find the neutral ground in it so that a potential change of connection to whatever it is that we're stressed about.
So in that space, on that note, one of the things that she had mentioned was that what's interesting is about the people who They do. It's I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's a stress test essentially that they put people through the hoop with, where they'll take a person, they'll put them in a room in front of a bunch of other people. They'll tell them they have to talk. They'll tell them they have to talk for 30 minutes about their life, and they're going to be judged by this panel of experts that's been trained to give them negative, like body language feedback, like crossing their arms and looking pissed off, like while they're doing this, explaining about themselves. And then right after that, they're asked to give a math test. Take the math test. They are essentially berated by the person that is giving the math test. And so like they'll be like, okay, going backwards from 97, counting in intervals of 9. Go now. And then as they're going, they'll go, okay, so 97. Oh my gosh, my cat's got my front door open, by the way. 97. And then they'll go, 8, yeah, they're crazy. They'll counting backwards of 9. So in 97, 76, 65, but then somebody will mess up and they'll go, you just screwed up. We have to start over. And they like berate them and like in front of other people. And then these people, of course, are experiencing tremendous amounts of stress. But then they would do the same tests with somebody who has been prompted beforehand that, hey, guys, stress is good for you. Like when you're sweating, when you're getting nervous, these are all responses that your body is. And what they find is that the people who have been prepped, while their hearts might pound fast, their blood vessels don't constrict. And what does that mean is that they're experiencing the same physiological responses as joy, as extreme elation. The same thing happens. Our hearts might pound, we get really excited, but our blood vessels aren't constricting. And so they, with that mentality of stress, they've completely changed the physiological effects of stress on them. And then also with that, it releases oxytocin, which is, the love drug, which is a big part of the reason our body responds in that way when we're stressed. The release of oxytocin when we're around other people is that it makes us want to connect with people, right? It makes us want to reach out and get that more oxytocin, but we have to have the stress first for us to like reach out to people and get that oxytocin response, that sort of hormone, because oxytocin is a stress hormone. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was such a cool, like, oh my God, stress is inevitable, but you can reframe the way you think about stress. How do we do that for all of our clients? I have to go get my cats. I'll be right back.
As you were talking about that, before we get into all of our clients, I was thinking of something when I was in college, the math class, which is what we're talking about, math. I would get stressed out about math. I used to think I was terrible at math. And then all of a sudden math became this calming thing, because then what I learned to do was to create a team for us to learn and bounce ideas off of each other, so that what used to had been a stressor and I can't do became a positive stress, where it created that connection, which Brooke was talking about, created that connection where, we created teams and friends. I got even the professor to come down to couple of our meetings. We were meeting at Barnes and Noble's, upstairs, and they used to have chairs and things. Anyway, so that's kind of was a fun thing where it worked to our advantage to stress and then learn how to create teamwork. And that changed. So with our clients, when we're thinking about what's going to activate their caring hormone, oxytocin, that's going to be different for each person. When have you guys interacted with your client, you saw that just that pure interaction with you, they got in that calm state? Jen, you were mentioning that a few moments ago. Speak more into that. What was that like? What did you do?
I basically just questioned in a way where it allowed them to expose cracks in their own thinking. And when those cracks became exposed, they realized that there were more options available to them, that there were more possibilities in the way they were choosing to think about something. And then also recognizing that they were choosing to think. It wasn't just automatic, that they have a choice to continue carrying that thought that was causing them to feel a certain way and stress. They want to reframe that thought, that allow them to feel lighter in their body in the session.
I think
to me that creates hope, right? Go ahead, Brooke.
I think that Anthony and I deal with stress when we do our lunch and learns. The folks who are there, we're talking marketing with them, and they're usually very stressed about what their next step is.
I can think of a recent example.
And they're all up in here, and they're, you know, and our goal in those sessions is always to ask them questions, whittle them down to that point that they realize. I mean, and this is not necessarily coaching, but this is this intention of realizing that they have all these answers. It's within their ideal client, that micro niche. And if they keep make it that simple, you know, it's that simple. And it, I think that they walk, you can see the physical change in them when that clicks in them, when they will stop racing with, well, I could do this, and I could do that, and I could do this, and I could do, but once we get them down that narrowed path, they're like, no, wait, this is what I'm doing. And I know my next step. And it goes from this very sort of like, to like a calm state where they're like, oh, I get it. I get what my next steps are. And it's like a click. It's like and it's always really, really cool to see those moments when they move from that headspace to that emotional space, and and it is always kind of when we get them into that where they're thinking like, okay, this is my ideal client. This is what they're experiencing. I know this. I know how to do this. I know how to help this person, and they find that confidence, and they stop. The stress stops, I think, to a huge degree. Anthony.
Yeah, I was thinking more so in terms of coaching, less of the lunch and learn, but I've seen it happen when those aha moments come. Not that I don't try to fish for those aha moments. I decidedly try to let that go. A lot of coaches are like, I need to get that aha moment. But there's been times where the client has generated their own aha moment in the questioning, and then, you know, I'll let people talk for like 20 minutes sometimes. I've been good with keeping the silence. That's something I had to work on. But sometimes I'll let people talk for a very long time, and then they'll stop talking, and they're like, huh. And then they'll like sort of think some more, and the talking will slow down, and the conversation will kind of slow down. And then there's that clarity moment there where like the stress seems to have just sort of melted away, and they're good on making one decision, or they've come to some sort of I can't think of the word, some sort of enlightenment on what they should be either feeling or doing about the situation. And I've just been quiet for the past 20 minutes or so. So sometimes clients will just arrive to it, and they just need to get that internal energy out of their system where the stress seems to melt away. And they sort of, so I don't know. My takeaway from that is to create moments where you can just let the client talk and do the work for you. Because that's sometimes what they need, is to just get that out of them.
I think they always do the work for you, right? Like that's the goal. Jerome, you've been quiet. I'm checking in with you.
We're speaking about just that realization of a moment, right? When your client has alleviated stress, right? How that kind of is presenting itself. Is that?
Yeah, and what that is like, what that experience is, or if
well, I think to definitely agreeing with Anthony, there's a lot of, I think it's stressful sometimes just to come in prior to a session, trying to figure out exactly what you want to speak about. At least in my experience with the client, sometimes even after a couple sessions, they'll come in with multiple things that they want to work on. And I think it's important to kind of ask them, again, kind of like letting Anthony, or speaking into what Anthony said, let them kind of speak out loud all their thoughts and let it kind of be laid out on a table for them to actually understand exactly what it is that they want to proceed with. Because again, it can be very, I think, nerve-wracking to kind of come into or to come and speak to someone else about some potential issues that you might be dealing with. And I think, again, being able to let that all just kind of be spilt out, laid out on a table, and to kind of decipher truly, really how stressful something really is. I think it's a really, I think a great exercise for determining how stressful something really is to say it out loud, is to speak it out loud, to get it out of your head. Is something that I feel like is for a coach is really one of the biggest, blessings that you can be as a coach, is to just be there to go ahead and allow them to speak it out loud. Because I feel like for a lot of us, we don't have that opportunity to. We don't want to bother those who are around us with, all these thoughts that are kind of confusing us or scary to us. So being able to be in an environment, you can go ahead and put them all out on the table, and the coach sitting back, allowing that to happen, I think is huge and greatly beneficial to not just, your clients, but I think for anybody, if you can, be that person for somebody.
To tap into like that, I mean, absolutely, that is the magic of coaching, as far as I'm concerned, is that safe space where I can just it out. And then not only that, but like I'm not going to be told what to do. I'm not going to be given advice. I'm not going to be judged for the path that I take. Which is what you get everywhere else out there, pretty much. Like somebody, if you're sharing, they're going to offer solutions. They're going to, and so like you have to be careful who you bring what up with, and who you know what I mean? Because you're like, crap, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with that person. And I don't want to, you know what I mean? And so you end up packing all this stuff inside, and then you come to this very safe space where you can just put it all out there, and you're not going to get told, and you're allowed to explore sort of what you want. It's so freeing. What was interesting too, that it was sort of coming to I'm going to ask a question here. Can we be stressed about the past?
Yes, totally.
How?
Yes.
Have you ever said something to someone, and then that night you're kind of going to sleep and you're like, why did I say that to that person?
But that's already, what are you really stressed about? What are you really stressed about? Are you stressed about what you've
I think
already
you're stressed
said,
about how that interaction,
what the effects of that interaction in the future?
I want to say you're stressed about how that interaction is going to impact the future. Yes, but I think you're stressed about the past because that happened in the past. You can't change it. It happened. I guess you can change it moving forward, which is something, yes, we're speaking with the coaching hat on. I'm talking like a client right now, though. Me personally, I'll have stressed about something that's happened in the past. Typically something I've said to someone in the past.
There's a funny connection here, I think, that I'm sort of tapping into. Is this, like, if we really look at it, we can't change the past. The past has happened, right? So, and whatever's happened, whatever people did in it, it is happened. But what we stress about is fear of the unknown. How is somebody going to react? How is this going to affect my life? How is this going to affect our relationship? How is this? All of these things are future forward. Well, we as coaches treat future forward. That's what we do. We don't treat, but we deal with like future forward. So it seems to me that coaches are like a fantastic solution for stress.
Well, it can be in the moment too, even though it may have happened last night, right? I can be stressed about it because I have a tendency to ruminate and overthink of what occurred. That can be stressful too. And it's stressful in the moment. And the thought pattern continuing would go on down to what you're discussing about. So I think here it can cause me stress now and in the future. Could it have caused me stress in the moment? Like past moment? It could have, but probably not to the extent that I'm feeling it now. If I'm still in that state, I'm feeling it more now than I did in that moment, I'm guessing.
So ruminating, but ultimately, you can be stressing about what has happened, but you can affect no change on that.
True.
So, which is why I was like, coach is a fantastic solution, because ultimately, if you want and if you want to alleviate stress, you got to be working in this forward path, right?
Brooke, you reminded me of the comedian you showed me, who's like, God, I wish I was able to had repressed memories. It's it's like you're driving on a road and these billboards of horrible things keep showing up, reminding you of what you did. Like, I don't know if it's stressing about the past really. It can be about the future, but sometimes it's just like a billboard that just reminds you of just like, here's this horrible thing, and then you get stressed about it.
Can you be embarrassed? I wouldn't say embarrassment can cause stress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I have plenty of moments where it's like as soon as my head hits the pillow and I'm ready to go to sleep tonight, I remember all the embarrassing things that I've ever done in my life and
That you've never done?
that I've ever done.
Oh, ever done.
Yeah. That's when it's like, okay, now when you have a moment of silence, let's just have all these billboards, flash before you. And that might cause stress.
I'm so glad it's really hard to embarrass me. Like my dad broke my embarrassment button at a young age. I mean, I did too. I went through therapy. Mind you, I went through therapy at 14 for like all of these things, and I did that for 5 years of me basically building self-esteem and building lack of caring what other people thought about me.
I would say,
Jerome.
I think exactly kind of what Anthony was saying. Those billboards is what I mean when it comes to stressing about the past. Like, there'll be instances where there are people that I'll probably never even see again in my life, where I maybe, just for an example, I tripped over, a rock. Not saying this actually happened, but an example, I tripped over a rock in front of my 5th grade crush or something like that. And I think about it and I'm like, that's super embarrassing, and like just stressing about it in that moment. Not necessarily looking to change it or anything like
She
that.
would have thought it was adorable.
She remembers that to this day, and she thinks about it every day, and she hates you for it.
See, that's where it comes in. Anthony knows what I'm
That'd be a
talking
good Onion article, I think.
That would be a funny Onion article.
Yeah. Everybody does remember every embarrassing thing you've ever done, and we're still mad at you about it.
It would have to be like a specific person. Like it would be like.
There's a funny article in there somewhere, but.
So when we talk about stress and we talk about this sort of mindset and reframing it, and we talk about our clients coming in and dealing with stress and being there as a solution for them, but we're not the solution. They're the solution, of course. But the solution for them to sort of get through that is coaching. Is there a fear of what happens if our clients aren't stressed anymore? What do we do then? What goes on in the session?
You gotta find new stressed clients.
On to the next client.
You let them go. If they're not stressed and there's nothing they really want to work on, as far as coaching goes, it's okay. Have a good life. I'll wait until you're stressed again, or I'll find new clients who are stressed that I can work with.
So tell me how you do not, because we spoke to Jerome a few moments ago about how he can be that empath and take on other people's when they're upset. How do we not do that, especially when we're in that coaching moment?
How do we not take on stress?
Other people's stress.
It's not your job.
Does it have to be specific to other people's, or can it just be like how? I'm curious.
I think you mean in like the coaching seat and your client is stressed.
The empath part, where a lot of the times, many of us coaches, we consider ourselves that empath. How do you not take on your clients'
I
energy?
could say how I've dealt with it is you're doing a job as a coach, and you've got to realize that's not part of your job. You've got to be as much as a person as you are professional when you are being a coach. So I think understanding that that's not part of your job, you shouldn't be feeling your client's emotions as you would maybe outside of a coaching session, as you would typically outside of a coaching session.
I find it tremendously relieving that I don't have to. That is it's one of the things that I love about coaching, because I have done consulting. I have done branding. I've done all these things, and the level of stress when that responsibility is on my shoulders. Like it's essentially, I've built as a consultant, you're accepting, period. You are accepting liability to some degree, and people are saying because of your expertise, within it lies the success and failure of their businesses. And there's a tremendous amount of stress that comes with that. When a coaching client comes in, I don't have to stress about any of it. It's like, nah, this is a heaven on earth. This is a beach with the sun. I get to sit back, I get to listen, and I get to be curious. And I don't have to take on the what happens outside of the session. And it's like a gift. It's like heaven. That is the best way for me not to be stressed. Right there.
Don't worry, Carol. We are not referring to you.
It's a tremendous relief to not have that stress.
I have spoken to many people becoming therapists or some sort of psychologist or something in that nature as they were in school. Different ones told me this interesting, that it was different people, that their professor said, if you can't stop taking on your patients' sadness or what's going on for them and all of that energy, I'm calling it energy, you replace with it what you will, you're not going to survive this. And even with coaching, while we're not doing typically the work of a therapist, there still can be some really heavy stuff. But even the light stuff, fun stuff, that's not ours to take on either.
And that doesn't mean, though, that we're not, we don't want our clients to be successful ultimately. Of course we want that.
Yeah.
What we're not doing is making their success and failure our responsibility, and their emotions, what their life and what they're going through is not our lives and what we're going through. We leave that there, we close that door, and then we walk away.
Yeah.
Tell your story, Jen.
So I identify as an empath. I'll just put that out there. And in the level 2 class, I realized that it was potentially going to be changed by sitting in a coach's seat path. And someone cries in front of me, I usually cry. And I asked Dan in class, I said, what do you say to someone who says that they typically take on the emotion of the person in front of them? And he asked me a question that, boom, like exploded my mind, changed everything. And from the moment, I have had no issue. He asked me who else I was holding space for. And when I realized that I was not only holding space for the client, but I was holding space for myself as a coach, it was like it clicked. That is who I am in this chair when I'm working with someone. I get to hold space for myself. I don't have to be that empathic who takes on their feelings. I get to be open. Like you said, Brooke, it is heaven on earth. As an empath, knowing that I get to just be, it's like, it's so wonderful.
It's a gift.
So,
it's a definition.
That moment. And Dan coached me in front of the whole class. And I was like so worried that I was going to start crying in front of the class. And I was like, it took me a minute to come to the answer. And when I got to the answer, it was just like, oh, that's it. We're done. Got it. Let's go.
It's the definition of who you are and your space and your journey and what's yours. And it's the definition of their space, their journey, and what's theirs. And term is witness. I get to witness what they go through.
Witness.
I love that share. I love that I could experience within you the excitement and relate to it, the excitement of the freedom of not having to take that on, of not having to take it on, and I get to be in this role, and this is who I am, and it is freeing. It's a gift. It really is a gift as a coach. It's a gift. It is 100% a gift. One that maybe we don't speak about as much, but that freedom of being able to know that you know, I get to be a coach, I get to shut the door, I get to leave this here, I get to live my life, I don't have to take all this home with me, I don't have to, that it's amazing. And then the power of you to grow through into your coach role and hold that coach face role and be like, no, I can believe in yourself to coach and do that. That was amazing. And not know that you can, right? The fact that you had that click moment and said, I can do this, hold space with myself as a coach and not take on the emotion. It hasn't been a problem since. It's amazing. Like, that's amazing. Badass.
And I have actually, it's infiltrated other areas of my life where I'm realizing that I have the opportunity to not take on other people's emotions in all in situations. It's like, it's such an amazing gift.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's, I mean, akin to the mantra of, you know, let it go, right? Just, this is not my, I don't have to do this. I don't have to be stressed about this. It's my choice.
You're singing, let it go.
Yeah. Dan always says, what am I in control of, right? And the one thing we're in control of is our emotions, our reactions, and what we can do.
Dan got me with that in one of a coaching session he had with me. Came down ultimately to me coming to the mantra of control what you can control. And it's so simple. We hear it all the time, but it's so powerful to, I think, really speak it out loud and actually embody it, because we stress about so much when it comes to just our daily lives, to the point where you really forget to ask yourself that question. Can, like, you know, what of all this that you're stressing about in this moment can control? And if the answer is a few of these things, go ahead and I think take care of them if you can. If you can't, again, I think stress can be a killer. So there's really no point in stressing about it if you can't do anything about it in that moment.
Simplify, right? Let it go and simplify. Do what you can. Worry about what you have control over, what you can, the power you can affect, what you can do, and then everything outside of that. Which also, I will say, meditation has been something that helps me tremendously in this space. Drawing, writing, turning to people, talking, all of these good things. We're done. Our time is up. Somebody besides me sign off.
And Fry is no longer stressed. He's happy now.
Oh, look at that.
Wait. Oh, we keep trying to. Yay!
He's not screaming now. Okay, that was our live on stress. Thank you all for watching in Facebook land and YouTube land and whatever else lands. Thank you, Meg and Michelle and Carol, for interacting with us. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, take our classes, level 1, level 2. They are not stressful classes. They're very stress-freeing classes. And be sure to check back in with us next Tuesday for our next live. Do we know what the topic is?
No idea.
We'll find out.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Right. We have a planned topic. I think we're in Flex. We might be doing something. I have to check dates.
We don't know. We'll see. We'll let you know.
Regardless, we will see you guys next week. Same time.
Bye, guys.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com. Until next time, be well.